Welcome to the Insight Meditation community of Charlottesville, Virginia. You can find all of our program offerings and information about our Sangha at www.imeditation.org. We meet weekly on Tuesday evenings at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, currently on the Zoom platform, for meditation and a Dharma talk given by one of our teachers. We also meet daily at noon Eastern Time on Zoom for sitting practice. We hope you can join us.
So, hi everybody. I'd like to light a candle as we've started to do. So a candle is a symbol of illumination that we can really touch into light. As we begin our offering tonight. So I wanted to talk tonight about wise intention. I've been contemplating it myself a good bit lately. I thought I would share it with you. And it's one of the factors of the Noble Eightfold Path, and a really crucial piece of the Eightfold Path, not that any of them are not crucial, but one that is easily misunderstood. Misunderstood, our intentions can easily become unwholesome and critical voices, driving and judging us rather than supporting and guiding us. So tonight we want to nourish the wholesome qualities of wise intention, and we'll do that together. I'm expecting that we're probably not going to use breakout rooms tonight, that probably the contemplations will be a little more intimate between you and your piece of paper. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. So starting with the Eightfold Path just reminds us that life is stressful for everyone. It's not unique to me. It's not unique to you. There is impermanence. Things change. And they change secondary to infinite causes and conditions that we don't have any control over. So that's the first understanding of the Eightfold Path, wise view. This is dukkha. Things change. It's stressful. It's hard. We don't have control. This is dukkha. So for starters, it can be hard to remember when stress arises that this is dukkha. And we're invited to respond to dukkha, to difficulty, with kindness and patience and equanimity and discernment and wisdom and care and wise action and wise speech, love. One of my friends told me a story recently about one of her grandchildren who was watching the evening news with her parents. And you know how the evening news goes with all the catastrophes and all the people behaving unskillfully. And when it was over, she asked her parents, so do we have to love like everyone? And her parents wisely said, yes. Everyone, no matter what, even, yeah. Even ourselves, when we mess up for the 1,000th time, for the millionth time, do we have to love everyone? Yes. You've heard me tell a story from Miles Horton, who was a friend of Martin Luther King, and he used to sit with him and they would talk together, and they started talking about loving kindness. And he said, Martin Luther King used to say to me all the time, you've got to love everybody, everybody. And I used to say, no, I don't. I only have to love the people worth loving. And King would laugh and laugh and say, nope, you've got to love everybody. So here's a question for you. Is there any circumstance or aspect of yourself or issue in the world or person in the world for whom that is difficult? Anybody? Anyone have any difficulty with that particular invitation of our practice? You know, maybe a couple of you are raising your hands or giggling. Yeah. So our intention can be, to do that. And wise intention is to respond with compassion, with kindness and patience and discernment and wisdom and care to all that life offers. An attitude or inclination of renunciation, of letting go, on which we base all of our speech and action. And so then the question comes up, well, it's like, well, how do we do that? How does that really function? How does it really work in real life, in wise action and wise livelihood? And what does it sound like in wise speech, in relationship with others, both in our intimate circles and out there in the world, and in how we are with ourselves, with our own selves? I found a quote from Thich Nhat Hanh. He says, when we come into contact with the other person, our thoughts and actions should express the mind of compassion, even if that person says and does things that are not easy to accept. We practice in this way until we see clearly that our love is not contingent on the other person being lovable. So we practice. So wise intention is the intention to practice in this way. The Buddha says, this is possible. Otherwise, I wouldn't teach it. I wouldn't ask you to do it. So Sharon's mind went, how do we cultivate the capacity to do that when we recognize kind of relentless failure and error, our own and others? How do we practice wise intention when confronted even with the downright evil that we hear about on, for example, that evening news broadcast? Evil, I understand, is actually just simply profound unconsciousness, but that's another talk. So here's an invitation for you with your piece of paper. Would you consider a particular issue about which you have a fundamentally wholesome intention, but it's hard to really bring it fully into practice? So it could be your intentions with your meditation, could be very close to home. It could be your intention, to be present while you wash the dishes. It could be the experience of your own body, your intentions with respect to your body, your own mind, your relationship with your sister-in-law or your Uncle Albert. Or it could be much broader, out in the world, reading the morning paper or listening to the evening news. So I'm just inviting you, would you find something, some particular aspect of your own life, your own practice, where you find living with those intentions gets a little wonky, where it gets a little sticky, where it gets hard to do. Or, and in some cases, you can't even see, well, how would I do it? How would I do it? And just name just one thing that you're curious about. How does wise intention really work here? And I'll just pause for a minute while you do that. So naming the circumstance and then name your intention. So we talk a little bit about a way to misunderstand wise intention, and then I'll tell you a little bit of a story about some of my own experience, and we'll work with it. So really, what I wanted to invite us to do was to contemplate a little more deeply than we might ordinarily. Well, how does this really work? So we can misunderstand the teaching on wise intention, and we can make it in our minds about getting to a destination. Rather than as the way, the process, rather than the sort of the living into the process of inquiry, that we can make it about getting someplace. And if we make it about a destination, I should be this, or one should be that, we can direct our intentions in ways that actually keep us ever more tangled in misunderstanding and suffering. Because our intentions can turn into confusion or into merciless critical voices. We might know that one. Merciless critical voices that don't actually help and that actually increase our suffering. So, there's places where our intentions turn into rules or shoulds or criticisms of ourselves or others. It's like intending, I would talk about, I've never been to Toledo. I don't know why I keep using Toledo as the example, but it's like intending to drive to Toledo, but getting lost, getting tangled, and then trying to solve the problem by driving aimlessly around or by castigating ourselves for our foolishness and getting lost. So here's the thing about wise intention. It's not about a destination. It's not about some idea about how we, or anyone else for that matter, are supposed to be. Well, if it's not about a destination, what is it about? Okay. Wise intention is the attitude or inclination on which we base our inquiries. What does that mean? Wise intention is the attitude or inclination on which we base our inquiries. It has to come from the depth of the heart, Ajahn Suchito says, not from its turbulent surface. So if we're looking at our intentions in terms of a destination, we're likely looking at it in terms of the turbulent surface, our ideas, our expectations, our wishes. So wise intention comes from the depth of the heart, not its turbulent surface. You with me so far? Good? Good? So I wanted to tell you a story that may or may not elucidate anything, but it does for me. But it's a story about being in Bali. Some of you know that I, often spend some time in Bali, and it's a country of very just very wise and gentle people. I walk almost everywhere when I'm in Bali, and I walk every day to the local coffee shop for my morning coffee and to, peck away on my computer a new blog post or something. And I pass people as I walk there. I pass Ketut, my friend Ketut, as she cooks in her shop, and Wayan as he waits to drive his taxi. I pass Kadek sipping his morning tea, or Puspa sweeping her front walk. People sweep their front walks early every single day. And everyone that I pass, they greet me. They smile. They'll greet me. They'll say "Selamat pagi," which means good morning. Selamat pagi. And one of the things that we most love about the Balinese is that there is usually an ease and a quiet presence about it all. A real presence of "Selamat pagi." Selamat pagi. Good morning. Good morning. And a common custom in Bali is for each of them to add a second part to the greeting. The second part is mau ke mana in Balinese, and Indonesian rather, and what it means is, literally what it means is, where are you going? And I often pause and chat a bit in greeting and response. But that greeting, mau ke mana, where are you going? We Westerners can sometimes be offended and startled by that question. To our ears, it can sound kind of rude. You just said good morning to me, and now you're saying, where are you going? And I've actually seen it in posts, just different online posts, where people get really annoyed and irritated. They say, it's none of your business where I'm going. That's a rude question to ask me where I'm going. It's absolutely none of your business. But that isn't actually how the Balinese mean the question. One could take it literally, as a question about a destination. But it's not really a question about a destination. Like wise intention, it's not really a question about a destination. The question really is more like, I guess it's closer. It's not exactly the same, but it's closer to our Western way of saying, so how are you today? And it's really a question of, so how is your heart this morning? What's the quality of your heart? So the words say, where are you going? But the meaning is, how are you? What's the quality of your heart? What's going on below, all this bustle, all this turbulent surface? I go back to Ajahn Suchito's teaching. He says, wise intention is the attitude or inclination on which we base all of our speech and action. It has to come from the depth of the heart, not from its turbulent surface. So asking myself, what is my intention? How am I today? How is my heart? In this moment, in this circumstance, what is the inclination of my heart? And wise intention invites an inclination of my heart toward renunciation, meaning letting go. Often it means letting go of excessive thinking that keeps us tangled, into kindness and compassion. Even so, it can be a little confusing. That inquiry below the turbulent surface to the quality of my heart. I thought of it this morning as I sat to meditate. And, I don't know about you, but I myself can so often misunderstand the teaching on right intention and can turn them into expectation of some particular accomplishment in my daily practice. Rather than simple guidance about the quality of heart with which I sit to meditate, I can find my mind offering relentless goals or comparisons or some kind of insistence that to be worthy, today's meditation must unfold in some particular way or must culminate in some particular outcome. And my mind can be filled with judgment, not there yet, not quite good enough. So the distinction there between thinking of wise intention as some outcome and thinking of wise intention as the quality of your heart with which you inquire into a difficulty. So I'm going to invite you to go back to what you wrote down. Look to see, is the intention about a destination? Some way you are supposed to be that you are not yet. And if it is, well, what would wise intention be if it's really more about the quality of heart with which you investigate? What would wise intention be? One day, not too long ago, I made a mistake in scheduling for a team that I was working with. And it's just like a little, I goofed up the schedule and I got everybody all confused and nobody knew what time we were meeting and what we were doing, and it was very confusing. So it was just an ordinary and a very small thing. But there was an ouch for me about it, and so then it's like, well, what is wise intention? Well, I'll tell you what my brain's response to it all was. my brain offered the opinion to me, you have now just ruined everything. Well, I thought, as my body froze and my whole being tumbled into overwhelm at that thought, I have just now ruined everything. And what was interesting were just my brain's continued shaming thoughts and opinions, which just led to all kinds of unpleasant emotional experiences. You know, all kinds of unpleasant emotional experiences. And then my brain switched gears to, well, they could be more understanding about this, if they were just more kind and compassionate, they wouldn't be grumpy about this. So then I shifted from shame to blame. So I'm watching my mind do all of this, just sort of half amused and half overwhelmed. Because I did realize that, perhaps in fact, I had not in fact ruined absolutely everything, that there's a small possibility that that was the case. So wise intention, what does wise intention, how does wise intention come to bear there? So wise intention has really three components. It has a component of renunciation or letting go. It has a component of kindness and a component of compassion. Remember my example of, going to Toledo and getting lost and standing on the street corner. So there I was with respect to this issue, kind of lost and standing on the street corner, intending, first of all, to be wise and incredibly skillful in how I manage the meeting. And secondly, intending to be wise and skillful with myself, none of which was actually working. There I was, lost on the street corner, nowhere near Toledo. So how do renunciation and kindness and compassion come to play there? Well, maybe some compassion for being lost. This is dukkha. Maybe some letting go of whatever thoughts were just not helpful, including the thoughts about how well I should let go of the thoughts about the thoughts which were not helpful, letting go of the, you know how that goes, where you're supposed to let go of the thoughts about letting go of the thoughts about letting go of the thoughts about letting, and it's sort of a cycle. Anybody recognize that one? So just like, oh, okay, so I could let go of some layer, wherever it is, I could just let go and just stop. Just stop. And there is that place where I can smile at, my brain's opinion, realize that it's my brain's opinion about it all, that I've ruined everything, and just sort of smile and imagine that perhaps that wasn't entirely true. And a quality of kindness. Okay, honey, what's needed here? Okay, honey, what's needed here? And very often when we think about, that renunciation, or we think about the kindness, we're actually, our immediate impression is to actually direct it outward, to direct it in, to try to be something, to try to become something, rather than, as Ajahn Suchito points us to, getting below that turbulence to the quality of heart with which we are inquiring. More like that. Okay, honey, what's needed here? And can I offer some of that? Some maybe forgiveness, some fix the schedule, for heaven's sakes. Um, you know, can I offer some kind of quality of kindness to it all? What's needed? Can I let go of what's not helpful and slip beneath the turbulence of the surface, letting go of any insistence that I be, that you be somewhere else or get somewhere else? What response might come from the depth of your heart? Go back to your piece of paper, dears. Fiddle with it. If renunciation and kindness and compassion are the qualities of wise intention, how do you bring that to whatever this is? Whatever this difficulty, this challenging place. Including if when you turn to look, you find nothing but confusion. How do you bring letting go, kindness, and compassion to that very confusion? To whatever is arising. What's needed here? Mokimana, where are you going? Yeah, what am I doing that's contributing to my own suffering? So that wise intention really has to do with letting go of my own suffering. Yeah, beautiful. Here's our light. Remember, we started with light, and so remember the light of your own wisdom, you know, of your own goodness, and let that be the light of these confusing places. It will take you where you need to go. So blessings, dear lighted ones.